September 22, 2023. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon to all of you, wherever you are, however you listen. Welcome on Newsmark. My humble self, Jello Aisatu, and of course, Bill. Good afternoon, Bill.
Good afternoon, Aisatu. It's a pleasure for me to be here one more time.
Okay, today we will be together up till 3 p.m., Bill.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, but first of all, we start with the news, and then we come up with the second part of the program called Décryptage. And in today's edition of Décryptage, in the studios, we have His Excellency John Marshall, Ambassador of Great Britain to Guinea. Good afternoon, and welcome on Newsmark.
Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Okay, and with him, we will be discussing questions relating to diplomacy, international relations, visa policies, and the importance of chevening. In the studios as well is Dr. Sarang Kaba Fadiga, chevening alumni. She studied public health at Bradford University, and she will be telling us about her experiences in the UK. Ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned for the break, and when we come back at the news right after the break. Let's go.
Newsmag, une coproduction de FIM FM et du Centre d'apprentissage de la langue anglaise ILM, 6 à Lambogny, près de la station TMI. Newsmag, le round-up.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the studios of 95.3 Newsmag, the roundup, Bill, the headlines.
Exactly, I said to at first sight, New York Colonel Mamadi Doumbouya delivered his message at the United Nations podium on Thursday, September 21st, 2023 in New York.
In a speech at the UN, the president of the transition returned to the reasons that pushed him to take his responsibilities on September 5, 2021. Colonel Mamadi Doumbouya castigated ECOWAS, which according to him is double standards in the treatment of military coups and constitutional coups. The head of state thinks that the regional sub-organization must stop meddling in politics. Furthermore, Colonel Doumbouya invited the international community to take into account the aspirations of the African people. While questioning the geopolitical maneuvers of the West and the China-Russia coalition, the transitional president of Guinea boldly stated that Africa is neither pro nor anti-American, Chinese, Russian, or even Turkish. Guinea's acting president arrived in New York on Monday evening to attend the 78th ordinary session of the United Nations General Assembly.
At the same time, after his highly noticed appearance at the podium of the plenary session of the United Nations General Assembly, the President of the Republic, His Excellency Colonel Mamadi Doumbouya, was received by the Secretary General of the Global Organization.
This meeting of great importance led the two men to discuss current global challenges, including the terrorist threat, famine, and more broadly, the issue of governance systems. Colonel Mamadi Doumbouya thanked the Secretary General for the honor bestowed upon him and the sovereign people of Guinea, reaffirming his commitment to working towards the promotion of peace and national unity. Mr. Antonio Guterres extended his warm congratulations to the head of state and reassured him of his organization's full readiness to support the Republic of Guinea in the successful completion of the transition process initiated on September 5, 2021.
Still with the visit of the president in New York, key meeting between the transitional president and the Chinese vice president.
On the sidelines of the regular session of the United Nations General Assembly, Colonel Mamadi Doumbouya met with the Vice President of the People's Republic of China, Han Zheng, in New York on Tuesday. A high-level meeting took place, bringing together numerous prominent figures from both the Chinese and the Guinean sides. The Chinese Vice President held the strong historical relations between his country and Guinea, emphasizing the strategic nature of the latter for Guinea. He affirmed Guinea's commitment to strengthening its relations with the Republic of Guinea in the interest of both countries. Note that Guinea regards China as one of its most reliable partners. Conakry and Beijing maintain a pragmatic cooperation that has been steadily developing since the establishment of their diplomatic relations on October 4, 1959. Despite Western pressures, Guinea became the first sub-Saharan African country to establish relations with China.
Otherwise, on Wednesday, September 20th, 2023, the President of the Republic was hosted by Paul Kagame, President of the Republic of Rwanda.
The two leaders whose friendship is well established took this opportunity to discuss the subjects of common interest and address the issues related to the multiple crises currently affecting all countries around the world.
To some extent, the transitional president, Colonel Mamadi Doumbouya, ascends the iconic podium of the UN in New York this Thursday to deliver his message.
As a form of protest protest in front of the Guinean embassy in New York, with the Guineans holding signs denounced the governance of the CNRD and the killings during previous demonstrations organized by Guinea's civil society. The former legionnaire Colonel Mamadi Doumbouya was close to Alpha Condé, whom he overthrew 3 years ago.
Now, some word on education. The visit of the British ambassador of the Guinean Ministry of Higher Education and Research.
Dr. Jaka Sidibe welcomed the British diplomat John Marshall, ambassador of the United Kingdom to Guinea. This first meeting is part of the ambassador's commitment to strengthening bilateral relations in the field of higher education and scientific research between the two countries. Discussions during this meeting also focus on the progress of the minister's project for the development of higher education and the revitalization of university research in line with the objectives of the UN's Sustainable Development Goals and the mobilization of resources for the country's higher education and research institutions. After expressing her satisfaction with this visit, the minister thanked the British ambassador for the opportunities that the United Kingdom offers to Guinea in the context of academic mobility. Through this, our countries share some very important responsibilities for the inclusion and equal participation of our students and researchers in international institutions, said Dr. Jaka Sidibe, Minister of Higher Education.
Okay, Ratama municipality initiate operation to clear public roadsides.
On Thursday, September 21, 2023, the Ratoma municipality commenced an operation to clear the roadways, particularly around the markets, and this action was taken at markets such as City Uncle Senk, Symphonia, and Kobaya. The aim of this initiative is to reduce the risk of accidents on public roads, especially at a time when vendors and other merchants are spilling over from market premises to display their products alongside the curbs. Heavy machinery was deployed this Thursday at the Uncle Senk market under the watchful eyes of police officers and gendarmes who were mobilized for the occasion, and many tables and stalls were cleared from the public roads, especially in front of the barriers erected to prevent encroachment into the roadway. Women from the Kobaya market, evicted from their stalls, barricaded the promenade this Friday morning, and it remains to be seen whether these vendors will return in the coming days, build the African stories.
Exactly. 1,200 closed schools recorded in 8 West African countries warned the UN.
In 8 West African countries warned UN in West and Central Africa, the number of school closures over the past 4 years of insecurity has almost doubled, reaching more than 13,200 closed schools. In a report authored by the Norwegian Refugee Council, the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees and the United Nations Children's Fund reveals that the education of approximately 2.5 million children is in stake.
Liberia's president denies accusation of importing drugs.
Liberia's president denies accusations of importing drugs made by the primary opposition party. The Unity Party has accused the president's government of increasing drug imports into the country instead of offering effective solutions to address the socio-economic challenges that the country is grappling with.
Now, from a point of view, Rwandan President Paul Kagame has announced for the first time that he plans to run for a fourth term in next year's elections.
In March, the Rwandan government decided to scrutinize the dates of its legislative and presidential elections due to take place in August 2024. Until then, Kagame had not openly expressed his intentions, but he has made controversial constitutional amendments that have enabled him to serve a third term and could allow him to govern until 2034.
Now, moving on to Gabon, Ali Bongo's son and other relatives jailed for high treason.
Ali Bongo Ondimba's son, Noureddin Bongo Valentine, and several members of the deposed Gabonese president's cabinet were jailed and charged on Tuesday with high treason and active corruption. Ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned for the second part of the program, Décryptage, but right after the break.
Newsmag, une coproduction de FIM FM et du Centre d'apprentissage de la langue anglaise, ILM, 6 à Lambangny, près de la station TMI. Newsmag, décryptage.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the second part of Newsmag Décryptage in the studios this afternoon. As mentioned earlier on, His Excellency John Marshall, Ambassador of Great Britain to Guinea, Dr. Sarang Kaba Fadiga, a chevenning alumni. She studied public health at Bradford University. But first of all, we start off with the Ambassador, and we will be discussing about questions relating to diplomacy and international relations. And the first question that I would like to ask you is, could you briefly introduce yourself and explain your role as an ambassador and your current posting?
Well, thank you again for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be with you this afternoon. So my name is John Marshall. I'm the British ambassador here in Guinea. I've been here for about 6 months. now. And for me, it's a return to the region. I was last in West Africa between 2011 and 2015 when I was posted to Senegal. In the interim, I've been in Luxembourg and Brussels, but very pleased to be back in the region and very pleased to be here in Guinea.
And we are also pleased to get you, of course, here in Guinea. What inspired you to pursue a career in diplomacy and become an ambassador?
So I actually wanted to be a diplomat from quite a young age, probably from the age of about 15 or 16. And the kind of initial inspiration actually was within my family, because I had an uncle who worked within the United Nations system. He worked in East Africa in a number of different countries there. And it was just listening to his stories about, his work and about his life, which kind of raised my sights beyond, the little corner of rural England that I was living in, and I decided that I wanted an international career. And I then became quite interested in African politics. Okay. This was actually the period of sort of Thomas Sankara, lots of things happening in West Africa, and so I decided I wanted to be a diplomat, and the natural consequence of being a diplomat eventually is you get to be an ambassador.
Okay, can you kindly describe the main objectives and responsibilities of your embassy in Guinea, please?
So we do a bit of everything, it feels. I mean, I think an interesting way of looking at it is what does my government expect of me? Because an ambassador is the senior representative of his or her government in whatever country they've been posted to. So what does the British government expect of me, or what does any other government, I think, expect of their ambassador? They expect us to be the expert on that country. So my government expects me to be the expert on Guinea, and for me to be able to do whatever they need me to do. Okay. So one of my roles is basically to understand Guinea, to know what happens here, and also to have a good network of contacts. So a lot of what I do is go out and meet people and talk to people. So I build my network and understand more about this country, whether it's politically or economically or socially. And over and above that, there's a huge amount that we do. Obviously, discussions that I have with the government of Guinea, they might be on issues relating to what's happening in Guinea. There might be issues relating to what's happening in the region, on global issues like climate change. It might be in terms of advancing our economic relations. It might be to sort out, problems that exist for British nationals here. It can be a whole range of different things.
And how would you describe the current state of diplomatic relations between your country and Guinea?
It's good. I think the fact that I have been appointed here is evidence of that. We've had I have very good regular meetings with all sorts of ministers in the Guinean government. We've had some high-level visits by the government of Guinea to the UK recently. The Prime Minister attended the coronation of our King on the 6th of May. We've recently had the President of the Conseil National de Transition, who was in London and met with the senior official there working on Africa. And I think the relationship is a good one.
Okay. Can you share some insights into the cultural, economic or political ties between your country and Guinea?
Well, one of the things that has pleased me since my arrival here 6 months ago is just how much there is to do on the economic agenda. And in fact, just last night I was hosting a reception that brought together representatives of British businesses here, but also a lot of Guinean business people who are interested in doing business in the UK. Okay. And there are all sorts of reasons why there is this desire to strengthen the economic relationship between the two countries. One is linked to the fact that the economic fundamentals of this country are actually quite strong, and that gives British business confidence in doing business here. And also the government is very open to working with different partners. Just listening to the news just now on the President's speech in New York, one of the things that he was making clear was that Guinea, is its own person, that, neither for or against the US, China, Russia, Turkey, France, the UK. The government here is willing to diversify its partnerships, and we very much hope to be part of that in terms of the economic relationship that we have with Guinea, and through trade and investment, through this partnership, supporting Guinea's development.
And what are some cultural exchanges or events that your embassy has organized to foster cultural understanding and people-to-people connections?
So we prioritize what we do, and a lot of our focus, as I say, is on economic issues. On the cultural side, there's a lot about UK culture, particularly the aspects, I think, which appeal most to Guineans, that we as an embassy don't need to promote. It promotes itself. So one of the things that everyone likes about the UK is football, is the Premiership. Every Guinean has a favourite English football team. I don't need to promote that. It promotes itself. Likewise, the BBC, everyone knows about the BBC, and a lot of people choose to get their information in English from it. It promotes itself. I don't need to do that. But one of the areas that we do work on to promote people-to-people links is one of the issues that we want to talk about today, which is the Chevening Scholarship Programme.
And how does your embassy work to address issues like promoting English, especially in a French-speaking country like Guinea, where English is today an obstacle for many young people?
So in a way, my answer is the same. I don't need to promote the English language. The English language is the global language. It's the language of the internet. It's the language of science. It doesn't take, a British ambassador to promote it. And there are lots of opportunities out there for people to learn English simply by accessing life through the internet. And where English is such an attractive skill that the private sector is going to be there, sort of providing opportunities for people to learn it if they want to do it in a classroom format. But I think it's one of the things that struck me since I've been here is just how much interest there is in learning English, and how good many people are already at English simply because they access the opportunities through the internet, through TikTok, through all sorts of sort of social media, etc. And people are teaching themselves. They're sort of using English amongst themselves, and they're basically seizing the opportunities.
And are there any upcoming events or agreements or projects between your country and Guinea that you'd like to highlight on, please?
So one of the things that we're working on at the moment is Guinea's participation in an economic forum that will take place in London in mid-October. And this is a forum that promotes trade between the UK, trade and investment between the UK and a number of Francophone African countries. So it's a great opportunity for us to, working with our partners in the Guinean government and the Guinean private sector, to introduce to British companies the opportunities in Guinea, and to introduce our Guinean partners to companies in the UK that have the skills to and the expertise to help Guinea implement the priority projects that it has, whether it's in infrastructure or health or whatever it might be.
And what are your hopes and goals for the future of diplomatic relations between your country and Guinea?
Well, I think any ambassador wants to develop the relationship, wants to leave the country with a relationship stronger than when they arrived. I will be here for 2 or 3 years. I hope the economic relationship will go from strength to strength. I hope that by the time I leave, there will have been a successful transition to a new constitutional order, and that will, I'm sure, further enable a strengthening of the relationship between our two countries.
Away from international relations, let's now talk about visa policies. Some people express frustration over visa application processes. For instance, applicants from Guinea have to travel to neighboring countries. And how does your embassy work to streamline and improve these processes?
So it's true, yes. Guineans, well, all applications are done online is the starting point. But Guineans will need to travel elsewhere. Most go to Freetown in order to give their biometrics. That is not unusual. There are visa application centres in only about half of the countries in Africa, and for residents in other countries, they will need to travel to a neighbouring country to give their biometrics. So this is not a process in which the embassy itself is involved. As I say, all applications are made online. Biometrics are given in Freetown or elsewhere, and then decisions are taken by immigration officers in the UK. There are going to be some changes in the next couple of years. I can't really put sort of precise months on it, but hopefully by 2025 there will be two significant changes which will help the situation, because I recognise from a Guinean point of view it's not ideal. The first is that we will be moving to e-visas, so there won't be a need to physically put a vignette in a passport, which will help shorten the process a bit. And secondly, once you've given your biometrics once, that should be valid for future visa applications. So while you will still need to go to somewhere like Freetown to give your biometrics, if you're then reapplying a year or so later, 6 months later for another visa, then you won't need to go again. So those are two kind of improvements coming down the track, which I hope Guinean nationals will benefit from.
Okay, we will continue the discussions, ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned for another break.
Newsmag, une coproduction de FIM FM et du Centre d'apprentissage de la langue anglaise ILM, 6 à Lambogny, près de la station TMI.
Complexe.
Oui, oui. Non, ne t'inquiète pas. Je ne vais pas oublier. Ça va bien le cheval? Les enfants là vont me rendre fou. C'est bientôt les vacances et je ne sais même pas où avoir les cadeaux que j'ai promis. C'est tout? Mais comment ça c'est tout? C'est un casse-tête de trouver tout ça dans ce pays. En vrai, tu n'as pas de problème. Va à Mediaset Plus et tu me remercieras plus tard. Ah bon? Taxi, centre moteur, boutique Mediaset Plus.
Boutique Mediaset Plus?
Oui.
Oh, Graham, toi, tu connais les bonnes choses, hein?
Ah bon?
Oui.
Super. Voisin, oui, voisin. Toi aussi ici.
Effectivement. Je suis venu réparer mon téléphone qui est totalement abîmé.
Apparemment, je suis le dernier à connaître les bonnes choses, quoi.
Voilà, vraiment, voisin.
Vente, troc ou réparation, chez Mediaset Plus, nous vous garantissons un service complet. Mediaset Plus, le numéro 1 des appareils électroniques et accessoires en Guinée.
Le groupe scolaire La Licorne, situé au quartier Yimbaya Bougie dans la commune de Matoto, vous ouvre ses portes dès la prochaine rentrée des classes.
Constitué d'une crèche, de toutes les sections de la maternelle et du cycle primaire, avec à la clé des enseignants compétents.
C'est des salles de classe spacieuses, aérées, décorées et climatisées, dotées de tableaux bancs. C'est aussi des dortoirs, avec toutes les commodités ainsi que des toilettes d'une très grande propreté.
En plus d'un espace toboggan, une aire de jeu en sous-sol des plus modernes de la sous-région. Et une cantine pour la restauration de vos enfants.
En plus, la direction de l'école met gratuitement à la disposition des élèves de la maternelle toutes les fournitures durant l'année scolaire.
Les places étant limitées et les inscriptions des élèves ayant commencé depuis la première quinzaine de ce mois de juin, rendez-vous vite à la direction de l'école, connaître les modalités d'inscription de vos enfants.
Vous avez entre 15 et 35 ans et vous disposez d'un micro-projet? Contactez la Direction générale du Fonds national d'insertion des jeunes. Après avoir accompagné 186 projets en 6 mois, 15 autres projets seront appuyés par le FONIGE les prochaines semaines grâce à la volonté du chef de l'État, le colonel Mamadi Doumbouya, à travers le ministère de la Jeunesse et des Sports. 60% du budget seront alloués aux jeunes filles entrepreneurs et 40% orientés dans des projets de jeunes vivant avec un handicap. Dossier à fournir business plan du projet, copie du RCCM, copie de la pièce d'identité, 4 photos d'identité et le certificat de résidence. Un garant est exigé pour la convention. Téléphone 612 969 699. Fonige, une jeunesse épanouie, un avenir radieux.
Sur l'info. Le fil rouge, la dominante de l'actu.
Rebonsoir à tous et bienvenue si vous nous rejoignez. Le président de la transition guinéenne, colonel Mamadi Doumbouya, a pris la parole hier jeudi à la 78e session ordinaire de l'Assemblée des Nations Unies, mettant un accent particulier sur les multiples coups d'État en Afrique. Devant plusieurs chefs de l'État à la tribune des Nations Unies à New York, le chef de la junte militaire, colonel Mamadi Doumbouya, a évoqué
l'État. Ah bon? Taxi, centre moteur, boutique Média 7+.
Boutique Média 7+?
Oui.
Oh, grand, toi, tu connais les bonnes choses, hein?
Ah bon?
Oui.
Super. Voisin, oui, was. Toi aussi ici.
Production de FIM FM et du Centre d'apprentissage de la langue anglaise, ILM, 6 à Lambani, près de la station TMI. Newsmag, décryptage.
Newsmag continues on 95.3. Ladies and gentlemen, as mentioned earlier on, His Excellency John Marshall, Ambassador of Great Britain to Guinea, in the studios with us. Dr. Sarang Kaba Fadiga, a chevenning alumni. She studied public health at Bradford University. And I would give the mic over to Bill for the questions concerning the alumni.
Okay, as we proceed with the second part of the program, of course, with Dr. Sarang Kaba, like you just mentioned. So tell me, madam, what motivated you to apply, for the scholarship?
Okay, thank you for your question. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon to our listeners, and thank you for inviting me here today to this beautiful set in the company of His Excellency Mr. John Marshall and Mrs. Mariam Kamara. So let me briefly introduce myself.
Okay.
I'm Dr. Sarang Kaba, and I am a chevenning scholar from 2021 from the University of Bradford, and I did my master's in public health. So currently I'm working as a consultant for some organizations, and I have my own NGO which is called Global Alliance for Health and Education.
Okay.
So that's me briefly. So coming back to your question, my motivations are simple. So when I finished my medical school and I had like 7 years experience in terms of community development and public health, I wanted to, it was a kind of obligation for me to take my career to the next level.
Okay.
So I was looking for scholarship programs and stuff. Then at that time, the best option was the chevenning scholarship. So, and we all know that this program is a prestigious program. So then I started applying for it, looking for people to help me, to coach me, and finally I got it. And we also know that UK has a very good reputation in terms of education. So yeah, there's our motivation.
Okay, so how did receiving the chevenning scholarship change your life and career?
Chevenning, I personally used to call chevenning a life-changing experience.
Okay.
Because usually I am basically someone who is bold and who loves challenges and stuff. But chevenning allowed me to increase my capacity of resilience. And apart from that, chevenning allowed me to develop myself in terms of personal level, professional and networking level. So today I am proud to say that I am part of this vast network around the world of people like who make the things done in their country. So yeah, it's a privilege.
Okay, so what were some of the most valuable lessons or skills you gained during your time in the UK through the chevenning program?
Yeah, as I said, my capacity of resilience has drastically increased because of the chevenning scholarship. For the very short story, when I was moving to the UK for my study, I left my 3-month-old boy here, then I went to study. So it was very hard, very difficult for me. I had to endure the stress of school and the stress of being alone, the stress of leaving my children behind me. It was very hard. Also,
Okay. In what ways did your interaction with other chevenning scholars from different countries enrich your perspective and global outlook?
Okay. You know, when you are already a chevening scholar, you are a global person.
Okay.
Chevening will help you to expose yourself in diverse range of culture and diverse range of intellectual mind. So I have been in touch with several cultures, which has helped me to have this critical way of thinking when there is a problem or issues in the community. And just for an example, I have one of my fellow chevening scholar from Uganda. We have a project together. He has an NGO which is called Men Fight FGM.
Okay.
So in the NGO there is only men, but they fight against female genital mutilation. And I also have an NGO, so we plan to have a project together. Maybe I will go there or he will come here so that we can do something together for our communities.
Okay, so were there any particular challenges you faced as an international student in the UK, and how did you manage to, to tackle that?
Obviously, when you are an international student, you will face challenges. So the first challenge was the UK weather. The UK weather is very particular.
Okay.
It can be sunny right now all the day, and the next thing you will see, it's raining and it's cold. It was terrible.
Okay.
But we tried to manage. And the second challenge was, how can I say that? The second challenge about UK is being alone, is loneliness.
Loneliness.
Exactly. I was alone. I left my kids, my husband behind. So the recommendation I will tell to the next chevening scholars is to involve themselves in extracurricular activities at university, but because there is always activities there. But if you don't go and look for it, you won't know, and you will stay home after classes. And it's very difficult to cope with that. We have several clubs for sport, for dance, for humanitarian clubs, and so on.
Okay, so could you highlight some of your memorable experiences or cultural insight gained during your time in the UK?
Oh, yes, there are, let's say, there are two memorable experiences I would like to highlight.
Okay.
The first one is the Chevening Summit. So the summit was in London, and it was amazing. Like leaving your small town, Bradford, and going to London to meet people and stuff and to visit touristic places. It was just incredible. And I was so proud and happy to be among more than 1,500 people around all over the world who are making things happen to their countries. So it was like a privilege for me.
Okay.
And the second, if you allow me,
okay,
the second experience was Christmas time. Christmas period is magical.
Okay.
Yeah, there is light everywhere. There is joy. People are kind, and when you go to the stores, you can get a whole lot of discount and buy a lot of stuff. So yeah, these are my memorable experiences.
Okay, you spoke earlier on about when you came back home, you're working on your NGO. Apart from that, is there any other project you're working on? How is the chevening? How did the chevening help you when you came back from the UK?
Okay, so when I came back home last January. So like 8 months ago.
Okay.
And my first project was to take a break, stay home, and take care of my kids. That was the first project for the community. Then after 3 months, I started going out, and I created my NGO, Global Alliance for Health and Education. And in 5 months, we have done several activities for the communities. Like we have organized a lot of campaign for young girls about sexual and reproductive health. We've done some, we've organized some workshop. We also organized some trainings for health professionals about data management, because we cannot talk about development if there is no research, and we cannot talk about research if there is no data management. So all the software about SPSS, ODK Collect, AP, M45 Collect, and so on.
Okay.
All right.
That was Dr. Saran Kaba Fadiga. She's a chevenning alumni. She studied public health at Bradford University. Back to you, Aissatou.
Thanks, Bill. Thanks, Dr. Saran. Coming back to Your Excellency, John Marshall, can you explain what the chevenning scholarship, why the chevenning scholarship program is significant?
So this is a global scheme that we offer in many countries around the world, and this year it celebrates its 40th anniversary. Okay. So one of the benefits that Dr. Saran was alluding to was not just that you are part of the group that are there in any one year, but you're part of a huge sort of alumni network around the world. And the scholarship is for a master's degree, so for a one-year degree, and it is for people who have done a first degree, who have had at least 2 years of work experience, and who speak English good enough to be able to get the full benefit from following the course. After that, it's up to the individual. They can study wherever they like in the over 100 plus universities in the UK, any course they like. So each individual will have their own idea of what they want to get out of this, how it is that they can develop themselves professionally and bring those new skills back to their working lives here in Guinea. So we find that everyone who participates decides, concludes it's a fantastic opportunity. And what we really want to do is encourage as many people as possible to apply, to do their research. As I say, there are over 100 universities in the UK. It's not just Oxford and Cambridge. There are some fantastic universities throughout the country, in all the different nations of the UK, so in England, in Scotland, in Wales, and Northern Ireland, offering all sorts of courses, some of which are actually only really available in the UK. It's, the UK higher education sector is also extremely international, very welcoming. And so we're very keen that as many people as possible apply. We'd like as many women as possible to apply. The deadline is the end of the first week in November.
Okay. As an ambassador, how have you seen the chevenning scholarship program contribute to strengthening ties between Guinea and the UK?
So here we have a relatively small alumni group. Okay. There are 25 or 30 chevenning alumni. They have their own organization. And we work very closely with them. We are in close contact with them, and Dr. Saran is a member of that group. And personally, I have found it very useful as someone new to Guinea, and some of the discussions that we have, because it helps educate me about the country that I'm in. And going back to what I was saying at the beginning, I add value for the UK in understanding the country, and I get that knowledge perhaps from talking to a government minister, perhaps from talking to a business person, but also talking to my alumni who are in a whole range of different professions. They come from different parts of the country, they have different backgrounds. So that's what I personally get out of it. Now, as I say, the scheme is huge. I think in some countries, I think in at least 20 countries, former chevenning scholars have ended up as the prime minister or president of their country. Maybe that will happen in Guinea one day, which will obviously give me priority access to that individual, whoever it might be.
Okay. Are there any recent developments or changes in the chevenning program or application process that you'd like to highlight on?
No real changes. I think the important thing to focus on is the date. Okay. To do your research well, so you understand what it is that you want to get out of the scholarship. So don't just sort of apply because you want the money and then later to sort of think about what you might do with it. Think what it is. What do you want to study? Where do you want to study? Have thought that through. And the other thing that we really encourage people to do early on as they apply is to take the English language test, because any offer that they might get, if they're successful in getting a scholarship, will be on condition that they have the right level of English, and it's best to get that out of the way early rather than leave it to the last minute.
And what advice would you give to individuals who are considering applying for a chevening scholarship and how they can make a strong application?
First of all, go for it, apply. As I say, think through what it is that you want to get out of the study. That's not only important for you in terms of choosing the right course at the right university, but also convincing the interviewers that you are the people that the person that we should choose, because we have many more applicants than we have places to offer. So we're looking for sort of, confident, outgoing people who have a clear idea of what it is they want to do with their lives, how they want to contribute to Guinea.
Okay, coming back to you, Dr. Sarang, what advice do you also have for those who are applying right now for chevening scholarship?
Okay, before giving any advice, I would like to send a message to the government because of my organization. I'm not looking for any specific thing, but I have the next stage of my NGO for the project is to go in the rural area and meet people, like do the project there. We want to do some advocacy conferences and some campaign there about sexual and reproductive health. Okay. But because I don't have a national approval, it can be a bit tricky for me. Okay. And I don't have any direct access maybe to the ministry or someone. So this is the message I want to send them. Okay. If they can hear me, it's in English, but I need an agreement. So yeah, now to address the chevening applicants, I will just tell them to be courageous, to be bold, and to be consistent. Consistency is key because chevening is not won in advance. It's a very tedious and complex process. You have to know how to tell your story. We all have our own story, but be someone who can tell the story, then you can convince people. So that's my message for them.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Sarankaba Fadiga and His Excellency John Marshall, Ambassador of Great Britain to Guinea, for answering to our questions and for accepting our invitation. And of course, a very big thank you to Mariam Kamara for helping us realize this program, and to our technicians of the day. Bill, anything to say before we just close the program?
I would just say, thank God. Well, of course, yeah, happy weekend to you out there.
And one thing, we have to encourage the people out there to continue learning English, because we have the ambassador was saying that English is the key here for you to get a chevening scholarship and all those stuff.
Yeah,
so they have to take up English seriously in all that they do. Okay, especially for this chevening scholarship. Sure. We hope to get more alumni in the studios here to discuss about their experiences and advices they can give to applicants. And we hope that next year, by this time, we will get more successful candidates from Guinea.
For sure.
All right, thank you very much, and ladies and gentlemen, this is the end of today's edition of Newsmark. Until next week Friday, of course, another edition. Until then, stay good.
FIM FM, la Guinée à la croisée des...
Complexe scolaire privé Les Diplomates